Welcome to MB Trading's online webinar about our MetaTrader 4 product. We're going to discuss today how we hooked MetaTrader 4 into our ECN execution. The main purpose of today's course is to walk you through some of the features and functionality that we had to adjust or tweak or turn off even within the MetaTrader 4 server software to get rid of and strip out the deal desk parameters that are so prevalent in the MetaTrader software over the years and make it connect to our direct access, straight through processing, and ECN execution. So today we're going to walk through a lot of screenshots and information that will explain to you what our MetaTrader does that most other brokers do not. Before we get started, I need to let you take a look at this particular slide for a disclaimer and compliance perspective. I'll leave this up for a few seconds and let you peruse. Here's a brief overview of what we'll be covering in this webinar today. First of all, we've got this introduction, and then we're going to discuss the differences in MT4 between something like our platform and what we see on other broker platforms, specifically those that leave the deal desk parameters turned on. Then we're going to talk about execution and order types as we offer them versus what is offered in the MT4 platform. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the MT4 interface as it compares to our MBT desktop and desktop pro interfaces, and also how that works at the account level. One thing that's very critical to understand about MetaTrader 4 is that this is not software that we have written. This is software that's been around for the better part of 7 years. It was developed by a company called MetaQuotes. You can find direct support of their software and the client software at metaquotes.net online. They've got a very active forum where you can ask questions about how the software works. We have licensed the code, but we did not develop the code, and thus we do not have access to the raw code to make changes to the client software. This is something that we get asked a lot about. People want to know why the error messages read the way that they do, why certain messages that pop up don't seem to exactly give you the full story about what's going on. People have requests about adding, say, our level 2 data or other information into the MetaTrader 4 platform. And the reality is we cannot make any changes to how the software, the MetaTrader 4 software that you download onto your system, how that works and operates on your machine. We do not have access to change anything about that. All that we were able to do is work from an execution perspective to bridge our execution and eliminate some of the deal desk parameters that existed on the system. What we do have access to is the behind-the-scenes software known as the MetaTrader 4 Manager and MetaTrader 4 Server. Now, the server is something that MetaQuotes sets up on our behalf. They install their software onto our system. They do regular updates to the servers as they find their own bug fixes, which is common in any kind of technology. So they're constantly updating the servers and improving some of the behavior, and that obviously we do benefit from. But in general, what we had access to was to take what's called the Manager API, and that bridges the execution. Essentially, we pull the execution away from the back end of MetaTrader and route orders to our ECN using the specific functionality that comes out of the Manager API. And again, that, as you'll see as we go through this, is a little limiting. It doesn't give us access to the full array of order types that our system in general is capable of, because MetaTrader is limited in that regard in certain ways, as you'll see. But we do turn off the deal desk parameters that desks use behind the scenes, and we'll go through and show you some screenshots here next to let you see what exactly we do and why some of the things work the way that they do on our system, but they have to work that way for us to have turned off the deal desk functionality. As you can see here, this is a screenshot of the server-side software for MetaTrader 4. This is not something that a customer would typically have access to in their client software. I'm going to show you a couple of screenshots. Basically, what you'll notice here on this particular one, certain features are set to off or 0. I'll give you an example. Limit and stop level, 0 points. That's down there kind of to the bottom right above the OK button. all right, or freeze level 0. These are levels where, for example, the limit and stop level, if I had set that to 10, that prevents a customer from entering limit and stop orders within 10 pips of the current market price of a pair, in this case the euro dollar. Why is that there? Because in the deal desk model, since they have all these limit orders and stop orders from their customers sitting on their server, and they have a screen that shows them where all those orders are lined up, and if they move their price, then they're going to execute either stop or limit orders depending on where the bid or ask gets to. And so they want to be able to see those orders before they move their price even a pip. And by doing that, by setting it to say 10 pips, it prevents the customer from being able to enter a trade too close to the market, so there are no surprises for them at the last second as they're moving their pricing around. You can also see a thing called maximum lots for IE, that stands for instant execution, that's on the left over there. Basically what that is something that we'll show you one more screen in a minute, but we had to turn off something called instant execution in order for us to work as a non-deal desk model with MetaTrader. You can also see spread by default is turned off, spread balancing. These are things that don't matter to us because our quotes are pulled from consolidation of multiple banks in the system. We basically have several entities that show their bid and ask along with our customers and other trading funds, if you will, and our system basically takes the best bid and the best ask and reflects that as our quote. So there is no such thing as a minimum spread with us or default spreads or anything like this. We basically are just taking whatever the market is, and the market is made up of all the players that are in our system, and we are translating that into a bid and ask quote that we share with the market. And you see the quote, you put an order in, and we route to those prices for you. Here's another slide or screenshot from the server software that's called the permissions tab. Basically what it shows you is a couple things. First of all, the key line to me is the highlighted line in yellow, the check request prices in IE. Again, that stands for instant execution. What that basically means is an instant execution is where you're basically sending an order to the desk and you're saying, I want to fill or kill. I see a current price, I want to fill at that price right now or give me nothing. Okay, and that's called an instant execution. Now, the caveat to that, once you start to understand what that implies, is that you have to have a deal desk for an instant execution to work. There has to be someone on the other end on the system, on the server itself, or connected to the server that can say, hey, yes, I'm going to fill you, or no, I'm not going to fill you at this price that you see. We don't provide the quotes. We're consolidating the quotes from other providers. We don't do the execution. We're simply routing your trades out to the various entities that are in our system. So we have no situation where we can give you a fill or kill back. We have to send your order out to the other participants and try to get a fill at all times. And this creates kind of an interesting scenario in MetaTrader because we had to completely turn off the instant executions when we set up the system. And what that means, strangely, is that MetaTrader has both a market order and an instant execution available, and we translate the market orders into market orders on our system. But the instant executions, you could add a stop loss or a take profit to the trade at the time that you were placing the trade. So in other words, if I want to buy at 5, that's the market price right now, I can put in an order that says I want an instant execution at 5 with a stop loss at 2 and or a take profit at 10. Okay, and the system either fills me, or the trading desk either fills me at 5 and now my stop loss and or take profit are in, or it doesn't. And the market order in MetaTrader was designed as a market order should work, which is that you're trying to get a fill at whatever price it takes. If you have to pay up, it will pay up. The way that they set up MetaTrader originally was that if you place a market order, you could not attach a stop loss or a take profit to the trade at the time you enter it. You have to go back after you get the fill and add those pieces. And the reason for that is you may be looking at a price that, let's say, is 5. I'm just rounding to pretending we're rounding the last decimal place there. So let's say I want to buy at the market and the current offer is 5, and I want to put a take profit at 10 and a stop loss at 2. Well, when I place a market order, if the market's moving very quickly, I might not get filled at 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 or even 10. And so my fill comes back at 11, but my take profit is at 10. And so the system doesn't allow you to attach those take profits and stop losses. Now, I would argue that it still should, that if you place a market order and you get filled higher than your take profit, it would just simply close the take profit or close the trade at that price immediately. It wouldn't necessarily be any profit in that scenario, but it would still close the trade out. It would work just fine. But MetaTrader was not designed that way. So one of the things we had to come to grips with early was that people that have EAs on other systems that use instant executions so that they can attach a take profit or a stop loss at the time of the trade cannot do that on our system. They have to rewrite it so that they buy at the market and then attach the stop loss or take profit. But this was a necessary evil in the sense that we just couldn't do it. We're not a deal desk. We don't have a way to fill or kill. And of course, if you think about it, when you're sending a fill or kill order, using again the example of trying to buy at 5 with a stop loss at 2 or a take profit at 10, if you get filled, you're getting filled at 5. There's no other price. So therefore, the stop loss and the take profit makes sense. And if you don't get filled, you don't get filled at all. So we ended up in a scenario where we had to take that out. And that is probably one of the biggest single adjustments people need to make in their EAs when trading with us. But it is also proof that we do not have a desk.